evangelist for the civil service. In fact, many people used to ask me what I would do when I left the foreign service. I said, my only mission I have is to get more people into the civil services in India. And they should not have the disadvantages that I had in terms of knowledge, in terms of training, in terms of the availability of resources, etc. So this is the first point that I'd like to make to aspiring students. Make it your dream. Of course, Professor Abdul Kalam had taught all the youngsters in India to dream. He kept saying in 2020, India will be a superpower. He knew it very well that India was not going to be a superpower. Even superpowers are collapsing in 2020, thanks to the pandemic. So he knew it would not happen. I said it in his presence that it would not happen, but the idea was to give a dream to the people of India, particularly the young people. If you don't have an objective, how do you measure your success? So even if you fail, you will know how far you have reached when you work for an objective, and that objective becomes a dream. So this examination is not like any other examination, because it is not something that you can prepare for in that sense, much of that examination. What you are when you are born till the age of 21, when you can take this examination, everything that has done, everything that you have experienced, everything that you have heard and felt, all these come into play in this examination. Of course, there are written papers, there is syllabus, etc. I'll come to that later. But it is a human development is that what is required for young people to be trained for the civil service. And that is exactly why I always say that it's never too early to start preparing for the civil service examination. The idea is to simply open your eyes and ears and see everything and learn everything they can learn. Because everything under the sun you are supposed to know, which you cannot do. But whatever you can absorb, whatever you can make it your personality, matters in this examination. And that is why it is considered the most difficult examination on earth. No other government claims, no other country claims that they have a more difficult examination like this. But nobody can teach you for the civil service. That is another interesting thing. Because everything that you have to learn on your own. What do these academies or training institutions do? We simply guide them. Now, I often tell them you can go to explore the forest on your own, right? You will see some trees, you will see some flowers, you will see some water, but in the process you might also be stung by a snake, or you may face a tiger. That's part of the game. That is one way of doing it, exploring the world. But suppose you have a guide with you who has been through this forest before. He might be able to tell you where the dangers are, where the attractions are. So the academy serves only that purpose of guiding them and guiding them through all these hazards that you experience in life, all the distractions that you may have, and make you keep following your dream till you attain it. The idea or the modality that you have to choose is to be different from the other students in class. How do you differ from them? They, of course, read the textbooks, they prepare for the examination, you do the same. But you have to something more than what they do. And that is the plus that you have to bring into your life. Once you decide that you are taking this examination, the first thing that you have to do is a quick calculation as to when you will be 21 years old and be a graduate. Very easy to calculate. Maybe 2023, 2024 or 2022, depending on your age today and the class you are in. And then determine that, and then you count down from there. If you are supposed to be taking the exam in 2024, you know that you have 4 years to go. And therefore, you arrange your lifestyle, arrange your reading, arrange your life experience to fill these 4 years. But if it is less, then you do less in a more restricted form. So once that is settled, that how many years that you have, then it's very easy for somebody like me to tell them what to do first, what to do next, etc. So I tell them that there are a few first steps. And what is the first step in the civil service examination is your proficiency in the English language. There are so many disputes and debates about language. But civil service examination, you have no option but to be proficient in reading, writing, and speaking the English language. This is not an easy task because in Kerala, we do not have many opportunities to speak English. Many of us may know English, but even in colleges, professors don't speak to you in English. You can't speak to your parents in English. So where do they go to speak? It's most often only in such academies. I did everything in Malayalam in school till class 10. And they made a quick switch over to English from what was called pre-university at that time. I never thought I would be able to catch up with the English that people speak. But by sheer hard work, we were able to not only be proficient in English, but also compete with Oxford and Cambridge scholars who took the examination with us. So it is possible to do. And for that, we must have the opportunity to speak English, which is one of the most difficult aspect of the aspirants from Kerala. And why? That is why some people go outside Kerala, go to Bangalore or go to Delhi. Then you are forced to speak in English. You are thrown into the water and you swim. That is the only difference between preparing in Kerala and preparing in Delhi. There is no need for you to go to Delhi and live on somebody's barsati and spend all your money and struggle and suffer. Not necessary. Provided you can replace that English speaking experience that you get there here also. And then that is the first step. The second step is to start reading a newspaper in an altogether different way. Not the way all of us read newspapers. Those who are preparing for the civil service have to read the newspaper thoroughly, starting from the Hindu to printed and published by Kasturi or whatever. Everything you must read, because we normally just skip, you see some photographs, you're attracted by an advertisement or some poem or whatever. But I show them how to read, from one first column to the last, turn the pages, again start from the first column. Otherwise, you will never get all the ideas in that. And then you may wonder, how can you do that every day? No need. After some time, you can do selective reading. Like in the United Nations, you think we sit there and listen to all the speeches? We don't. But we pretended that we listen to all the speeches. I was there in 20 years in the United Nations. You can never listen to all the speeches and absorb. But after a few years, or maybe after a year or so, you develop what is called selective hearing. Nobody listens to everything. But so you say something different today, what your country has never said, in 2 minutes, it will all be on the wires. Everybody would have heard it. But you keep on repeating India stands for disarmament, development, equitable distribution of wealth, blah, blah, blah. Nobody will listen to you because there's no need to listen. They know already what you're going to say. Similarly, newspapers, when you begin, it's a long process because every column has a background. Every column tells you a little bit. And next day when you read the last columns, you don't need to read. You learn to skip that because you knew already. Or it is available on the op-ed pages in a more summarized form which you can catch up with. And similarly, economic news, sports news. In the Hindu, you also have spiritual interpretation of books, everything. If you can read that, say if you are in class 12 today, and we can read that like the newspaper every day till your examination, say 3 years from now, I can guarantee you that you can qualify without reading anything else. I'm not exaggerating. I'm only talking about what you learn in school. You do your bachelor's degree, you do your master's degree, and that you do well, plus newspaper reading. That's all that I did because we had nothing else we could get hold on. But now there is so much of distraction. All the questions are sold and given to you. There's a lot of spoon feeding taking place. And many of these institutes claim that we give you all the questions, we have good connections in Delhi. All this is absolute nonsense, because the UPSC is probably the fairest, and so far no allegation of any kind has been made about UPSC's impartiality, originality, and transparency. So then, when you start preparing for the examination, say 2 years before or 1 year before that, then you look into the syllabus and see which are the things that you should be specially planning to do. So there is the preliminary examination, which was not there during our time. Because preliminary examination is basically to eliminate the large numbers. You know, why put 10 lakhs of people through these 10 papers of the mains examination? So it was an aptitude test, it was meant to be. But now it's something more than an aptitude test. There is a general knowledge, and there is also some amount of mathematics and some amount of science and some amount of English, etc. in the second paper. But the second paper is not counted for rank, calculating the rank. So you need only 30% in the second paper. But the first paper, you must at least get about 50 out of 100, because that is probably, whatever you get you above 50 is takes you closer. So the idea is to be one of the 15,000 that come out of the preliminary examination. And once you are selected, but the mind you, even if you fail in the preliminary examination at any stage, you have to go back to the preliminary examination. You clear the preliminary, then you clear the mains, go to the interview. Suppose you fail, you start back again with the prelims. You know, that's a disadvantage, but this is how it is. So that is why it takes you 15 months for each chance you take. Because the examination, the prelims start in about March. Of course, this year everything has been upset because of COVID-19. But around March, you have the prelims examination. Around October, you have the mains examination. In about January, February, you have the interviews. And by March, the results are out. This time, the results have come just a few days ago. We are still celebrating the victory of our students. So, and then once you have finished the prelims, then you have to have 9 papers. 4 of them are called general studies papers, divided into various aspects, virtually everything under the sun. But the syllabus is very well organized. You can follow the syllabus, there is no need for you to go out of it. But the syllabus is listed somewhat in a misleading manner, in the sense they say 6 plays of Shakespeare for English students. And you go on to say, and the general knowledge of all Shakespeare's plays. So what is the syllabus then? That means you have to read 36 plays of Shakespeare and the sonnets and everything else and everything that is written on it, and one lifetime can be spent. But that is not how they question you. They expect you to know what is generally known. You may not have heard about Taming of the Shrew, but you must have heard about Macbeth or Hamlet or King Lear or Julius Caesar. So there is a classification there. So if you are able to deal with generally known plays of Shakespeare, I'm giving that example because I took the optional English paper. This is true about whether it is sociology or geography. It is not all knowledge that they are seeking. A familiarity with the subject and the ability to analyze it and be critical and bring that knowledge into some kind of application in your life. And that is how it is designed. Then there is an English essay paper. 2 essays you have to written in 3 hours. One on a factual India's economic development essay. That means you need a lot of information, a lot of statistics. On the other, maybe something very philosophical. Honesty is the best policy, let's say. So you can go haywire, you can have your imagination. So one which tests your knowledge of a subject, your ability to analyze it and suggest measures. And the other one, more philosophical, where you can give free rein to your imagination. And this is an important paper. Then the optional subject, there are 24 optional subjects. You can choose what you want. Of course, I would tell aspirants to try and take as the optional paper something you have studied in the college. Or conversely, study in the college some subject which you can offer for the optional paper. That means one optional paper you don't have to study separately. But as was said, the engineers are the ones who are now joining most. And most engineers do not offer engineering as a subject. Something which looks unimportant is you have to also pass a language examination. Language examination in the sense of your mother tongue. Of course, you can use Malayalam literature as one of the optional subjects, which many people from Kerala do. That is different. That means that's for the scholars. If you have done masters in Malayalam or you are very fond of reading all NT's novels and Padmarajan stories and things like that, they can write the optional paper. But there is a simple class 10 syllabus paper you have to pass in Malayalam. And this is difficult for non-resident Indians who come from abroad, for example. Because for them, they may not have that kind of knowledge of Malayalam language. And this is very important because what they do is they first value this paper. And if you don't pass this particular paper, all the other 9 papers are thrown into the waste paper basket. This is just to save time for the UPSC. So if you know everything, but you can't pass your Malayalam paper, which means your other papers are not valued at all. And so this is how these 9 papers are created. And this is the core of the examination. And out of this, they select about 5 times the available vacancies. So if there are about 1,000 vacancies, they invite 5,000 of them. And then the interview is not to find out what you know, because that they already found out. I myself been on the board, so I know. What you look at the candidates at that stage of the examination is exactly what they say. It's a personality test. They know you are a great scholar in mathematics or history or literature, but they would like to know what you look like and how you respond. This is the question. You may not know any of the answers they ask. One very distinguished police officer who became a governor, he told me, look, first 5 questions KPS Menon asked me. It was all about India's foreign policy and I did not know anything. 5 questions he kept saying, sir, I don't know. And after the 5 questions, he said, anyway, I'm not going to make this. So let me now spin some tales. He decided that I'm not going to get into the service. And then he knew all the answers of all the questions which followed. So how do you choose? How do you manage? When do you give up? And at least he got into the police service. If he answered the first 4 questions also, maybe he would have joined the IFS or the IAS. But he was very happy. He became a governor of a state. What more do you want? So many things can happen. But the personality test is basically what you are. You cannot prepare for it. You cannot coach yourself for it. The English language, you cannot change your intonation or accent in 3 months. All that is not possible. What you are, you are. And what they are looking for is not an extraordinarily brilliant person, but someone who can respond to challenges, who can be properly trained, and that capacity for training. And so the examination is the same for all services. And once you join the service, it is the responsibility of the government to teach you what they expect you to learn. And each service has its own academy, the first one in Mussoorie for all of us. And then the others move on to different academies and they are trained for their professions. So you don't need to worry about that at the stage of the examination. Don't waste time learning Japanese or Chinese or anything of that kind. The government will send you the first thing abroad to study the language. I was sent to Japan for 2 years, nothing but learning the Japanese language. I was put up in a Japanese family compound where I had to speak Japanese from day one. Complete immersion, total immersion. And I came out in a year speaking like a native. So that is the responsibility of the government. We don't need to worry about that. Similarly, about what to do with diplomacy, what are negotiations, what are treaties, what are conventions. All these they will teach you before they launch you onto the service. So during the examination period, you should have an idea as to what service you want. Just like what you have to decide what optional papers you are taking. That's a major decision you have to take. Then after the mains, you have to tell the government what is the service that you want. So you go by your aptitude and ambition. And once the results come, the preferences that you indicated before you took the examination alone will be considered. They will give you Karnataka. You have forgotten that you had ever opted for Karnataka. Maybe Karnataka was your second choice. So they say, sorry, we cannot send you to Kerala, so we'll send you to Karnataka. That's the first time you remember that, my God, I had written Karnataka also in this. So, and so that's a real gamble. What is important is try to get to the highest ranks of the civil service. So if you want to be in the IAS, you have to be, if it's a general category, of course there are reservations, etc. for OBCs and STs, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe and so on. So out of about 120 posts of the IAS, only about 80 will be available to general candidates. So you have to be in the first 80, and then some of them may go to the foreign service, and therefore maybe it may go to 85, 86, etc. And if you want to be in the Kerala cadre, you have to be at the real top, because only 1 or 2 people are allotted to Kerala cadre, except of course those with reservations. General category getting Kerala cadre is the most difficult thing, because you have to be really on top, maybe above 50, and then there should be no other Malayali above you. So how can you calculate all this? So you must in fact respect those who come to Kerala cadre even more than the others, because that is the toughest thing to do. It is only a 1 person or 2 persons in the 10 lakhs will come to the Kerala cadre if you are Keralite. Of course, if you are from outside the state, they can come even if your rank is low, because Kerala is not particularly popular among other states. So you may see somebody from another state who is not as brilliant as we think, but at least those Keralites who have come to Kerala, if they are general category, they are the best. And that is what we of course see in our day-to-day experience. So the interview, see, then the marks. See, all these put together, of course the prelims are over. Once you pass the prelims, then that mark is unimportant. Nobody looks at it. Your mains paper, all the 9 papers together, you have something like 1700 to 1800 marks. And then for the interview, you have only 275 marks, the personality test. So that means if your written papers are very good, even if you don't do so well in the interview, you can manage to get through. Of course, getting better in the interview is, if you get about 70 to 80%, which good candidates get, that will be a good addition. But till this calculation is made and you cross something like 1100, 1150, that is when you make it in the civil service, including the interview marks. And that is it. And then they allow you the services. But today, most people want to join the IAS. Some people want to do only IPS, they don't even want to go into the IAS. They do not want to go into the foreign service, they would rather go to the income tax or customs. And therefore, there is a complete change in the preferences indicated by people. Most of them will have IAS as first, IFS as first, IFS as second, IPS as third, etc. And this depends on your attitude and aptitude, I said, which you determine. And then they slot you into various those things. And then you start your training. It's a total gamble as to whether you will win the IRS or civil service. And there are 24 services. Not only all that we hear about. IAS, some of you must have heard. There is the railway service. And the last one is the Pondicherry police service. That's the last one, 24th. And all of them are equally good. They're all class 1 services, very prestigious, very powerful. So you can land up in any one of those if you don't get the IAS or IFS or IPS. And I joined the foreign service, but my only, incentive was that I should join there because my father wished it. Like Obama's autobiography, my father's dream. So it was my father's dream. In the case of most of us, it is so. But then it depends how much you dream. Obama's father, a black Kenyan, dreamt that his son will be president of the United States. Can you imagine? And he fulfilled it. So I didn't go that far. But still, my father had a lesser dream which I fulfilled. And so many factors come into it. But the secret of success in the civil service examination is very, very determined pursuit of a dream. And as all the Swamijis and all the philosophers tell us, if you really, firmly, strongly want something, you will get it. Or at least 80% you will get it. So there is no special background required. If you read every day, here is a man who was in a village, or somebody who was in a mine get into the IAS. A girl from Wayanada get into the IAS. She didn't have even a proper home or facility. So, and at the same time, we have millionaire children all over. But the main thing is you have the basic capacity and the ability to work hard consistently for say 10 years, 8 years, 6 years. You have to do that. And this is the way to change the society in a sense. That's my final point. 30 years ago, the people in Bihar and UP called Kayasthas. Kayasthas are like Nayars in Kerala. They looked around themselves and found that they have lost all the privileges and prestige they had as a community because there is no land. Land distribution hit them. And all the power and privileges that this community had, they had lost it. And they got together and discussed what to do. How do you get back the position? And somebody advised them, send your children to the IAS and the IPS. They will come back as collectors and district police officers, and they will get you back to your glory of the past. And trained loads of young men and women went off to Delhi. And they created a village in Delhi, which is now the IAS village. It's a huge street, some Mukherjee street or something. Every shop is a printing shop downstairs and an IAS class upstairs. And they're thick, they're put together like sardines there. They make these notes downstairs, go and mug them up and get themselves trained. And now, if you go to the government of India, it used to be Pillais and Nayars and Kurups and Panikkars those days, but you will find none of them there. It is all Bihari, UP, Kayasthas. They come for the interview. They say, why are you giving up your medical education or engineering education on which so much money has been invested by the government, right? And now you are throwing it all away for the civil service. Then many of them give a stupid answer. I want to serve the nation, right? I keep telling them, please, for God's sake, don't say serve the nation, because the sweeper serves the nation better than you, right? So don't say that. Courageously, bravely tell them that I want to join the best service in the country and I want to try for it. That will be the most honest answer. You agree, Swamiji? Because, you don't know what you are able to do, you don't know what service you will do for the country, but the understanding is, general consent is that for a young man, the most desirable thing is to do that. And so there must be many things waiting for me. And I'd like to go and try and use it and try what I can do with my engineering skills. And I know that engineers and doctors have become great administrators also. So this is it. So it's not that, you must have an immediate objective of your doing something. And then within that, whether you go to the foreign service or income tax or you go to police, etc., depends on your personal taste and attributes and attitudes. So that's what I would tell them. Try for the best service you can get. Now, where there is no discrimination of any kind. You don't have to be rich, you don't have to be powerful, you don't have to be anything. Till today, I have not heard anybody influencing the UPSC with any of these attributes. So it is you are tested, you want to get the best, so I'm here. That should be the approach. If you do a botany and zoology or sociology, like do your BA, MA, try for the service, you may get it. But suppose you don't get it.
All right.
Will this botany and zoology going to help you?
That's right.
So, do you have an alternate path? Suppose you want to be a scientist. Fair enough. But if you honestly want an insurance for yourself, learn a professional course.
Okay.
Be a nurse. Nurses can join.
Yeah, you can.
But we have a collector, I think now, who was a nurse. Veterinary science, dental surgery. So I'm saying engineering, medicine, by all means. But even other professional courses, you have an opportunity to do it so that you keep it aside in a bank, so that you are not disappointed if you don't make it. But if you don't want that and you are willing to take this thing, then do a course which will benefit you in choosing your optional pick. In this UPSC interview, what they are looking for is not knowledge, not ability or what you studied or whatever. In the 25 minutes, good enough for you to know the personality of the person. That's all. But the other one, these 5 days, they are making you climb the mountains and jump into the well and all those things which are required. And therefore, it takes so many days. But now we also have civil service also has a psychologist on the board, which is a new adaptation, so that they can also work out your psychological sensitivities, etc. But I was on the board, so I know very well that 25 minutes are enough. In fact, the first 10 minutes we decide whether this guy deserves to be in the service or not.
All right.